The hidden law of attraction, that nobody wants you to know there is something almost no one says out loud, but that many feel in silence. The expectation that the law of attraction is like an instant spell, capable of bringing to your hands what your heart desires the moment you ask. It's like expecting a sent letter to arrive before it's even been posted. Within this expectation, there is an invisible promise that the universe will respond quickly, as if it were just waiting for our request. But this is where many begin to sabotage themselves without realizing it. Bruce Lipton reminds us that it is not just conscious thought that shapes reality, but the internal environment we carry day after day. Our cells are like living gardens, sensitive to the emotional climate we create. And if the internal soil is saturated with repetitive patterns of doubt, frustration, or fear, it is of little use to plant seeds of optimism in the morning. The still dry ground will not sustain growth. Greg Braden takes this idea to an even broader field. The universe does not respond to our words, but to our vibrational coherence. It is not what we say that matters, but what we feel so intensely and truly that the entire body begins to vibrate at that frequency. The unified field, as he describes it, is like a mirror. It returns not what we ask for, but what we are capable of sustaining internally. And here lies the invisible error, treating manifestation as a simple request to the universe, forgetting that we ourselves are the antenna that transmits and receives the message. It's like sending a precious letter with the wrong address. The content may be perfect, the intention may be pure, but the message will never arrive where it needs to. This is the hidden law that few reveal. The universe does not just read what we ask for, it reads who we become while we are asking. The silent code of manifestation is not in the wish list, but in the constant pattern we carry in our body, heart, and mind. When this trilogy aligns, no letter gets lost, no request goes astray, because the frequency already knows exactly where to deliver. 1. The noise that distorts your frequency. It is not always the major trauma, the great disappointment, or the intense emotion that sabotages what we are trying to create. Often, it is the silent accumulation of micro-emotions that cross our day. A sigh of frustration while looking at the clock, a thought of disbelief upon seeing a news report, a subtle discomfort in a conversation. They are small waves that, when added up, change the course of the internal tide without us noticing. These peaks of misalignment act as interference on a radio signal. We may be broadcasting a calm song, but if someone is constantly knocking at the door, our hearing gets scattered, and the harmony is broken. In the vibrational field, each micro-emotion is like this insistent knocking, interrupting the clarity of the frequency we are trying to emit. Bruce Lipton explains that the body interprets these micro-emotions as signals to adjust its chemistry. A moment of unresolved irritation can trigger a cascade of hormonal reactions that lasts for hours, keeping the body in a state of alert. And in this state, there is no room for the receptive openness that manifestation requires. Most of this interference is not born from major events, but from emotional habits we carry almost without noticing. A silently repeated phrase, an automatic gesture of impatience, a physical posture that translates tension. All of this sends subtle messages to the field, even when the conscious mind is trying to think positive. The real adjustment begins when we recognize that the frequency we emit is not made up only of grand moments of visualization, but also of the sum of all these emotional fragments. When the noise decreases, even without changing anything in the request, the signal becomes purer, clearer, and in the language of the universe, clarity is an invitation. 2. The myth of isolated visualization. Visualization is often presented as the master key to manifestation. Close your eyes, imagine what you want, feel yourself there, and everything will come. But when practiced in isolation, without the support of the body and emotions, it becomes just a mental movie, a beautiful script projected on the internal screen, but one that does not find its way to becoming reality. The reason is simple. The subconscious is the true autopilot of our lives. As Bruce Lipton explains, it responds less to what we consciously think and more to what we feel repeatedly and consistently. If the mind creates brilliant images but the body remains trapped in old emotions, the subconscious interprets that the reality is still the one that is felt, not the one that is imagined. This disconnection is like watching a travel movie while remaining seated in the same place. The images can be inspiring, but they do not generate real movement. That is why so many visualizations turn into pleasant daydreams, but not into concrete manifestations. The silent test is to notice the physical effect of a visualization. If the body reacts with expansion, deeper breathing, and a sense of presence, it is a sign that the frequency is being incorporated. If, on the contrary, the feeling is one of distance, emptiness, or even discomfort, then the mind is working alone, and the message sent to the field is incomplete. Manifestation begins to gain strength when visualization ceases to be an escape to the future and becomes a state lived now. In that moment, the body stops being just a spectator and becomes a participant. And when mind and body act together, the field does not just receive an image, it receives a living frequency, charged with coherence. It is this coherence that opens the door for what was seen internally to be revealed in the external world. 3. Synchronicity as a real thermometer. Most people measure the effectiveness of manifestation only by the big results. They want the job, the house, the relationship, the exact amount in their bank account. And when these milestones have not yet appeared, they believe that nothing is happening. But manifestation rarely presents itself as an abrupt leap. It begins as a set of subtle signs that intertwine until they form the complete picture. These signs are synchronicity in action, small coincidences that are not the result of chance, but direct responses from the field to the frequency you are emitting. A conversation overheard by chance that brings the answer to something you were thinking about, an unexpected encounter with someone who opens a door, a number or symbol that insists on appearing. These are indications that the reality around you is adjusting, like pieces of a puzzle that begin to fit together before revealing the whole image. To ignore these micro-events is like not noticing the gentle breeze that precedes a storm. Greg Braden describes this phase as the moment when the field is already in motion, reorganizing circumstances and aligning people, places, and opportunities, so that the final result can manifest. But to perceive this dance, one needs sensitivity and presence. Synchronicity works like a thermometer. The more frequent and aligned with your desires it becomes, the clearer it is that you are emitting the right frequency. It's like hearing a distant melody getting closer and closer. Even before the music starts, you already know you are going in the right direction. And when we learn to recognize these signs, we begin to trust the process, not because the final destination has been revealed, but because the path is already responding to our presence. 4. Breaking the cycle of frustrated manifestation. One of the biggest emotional traps in the law of attraction is to vibrate need while affirming you want abundance. It's like holding out your hands saying, "I have," when deep down, the body's energy is screaming, "I need." This contradiction creates a field of tension that not only makes manifestation difficult, but also keeps the desire in a state of waiting. When need dominates, it produces urgency. And urgency is a state that informs the field that something is missing. Bruce Lipton reminds us that the body responds to this state with chemical patterns typical of alert, increased cortisol, shallow breathing, muscle contraction. All of this communicates, at a cellular level, that we are not yet safe or complete. In this scenario, any desire becomes more a proof of absence than an expression of fullness. The antidote to this dynamic is what we can call productive presence. It is shifting from the movement of chasing after to a state of being present and receptive, internally creating the conditions for what is desired to flourish naturally. This presence is not passivity, but a conscious cultivation of the internal environment. It involves choosing thoughts, emotions, and even physical stimuli that strengthen the frequency we want to emit. Creating a favorable mental and physical environment is like preparing a greenhouse for a rare plant. The temperature, the light, the humidity, everything is adjusted so that growth happens effortlessly. In manifestation, this means aligning habits, words, and sensations that sustain the desired vibration so that the body not only accepts the new state, but recognizes it as natural. When need dissolves and presence takes its place, the frequency no longer carries the weight of waiting. And it is at this point that the cycle of frustrated manifestation is broken, because the message sent to the field ceases to be an urgent request and becomes a calm affirmation. This is already part of who I am. The secret is not a secret, it's attunement. What we often call the secret of the law of attraction is not hidden in mysterious techniques or inaccessible formulas. It lives in the simplicity of attunement. Bruce Lipton explains that when we change our internal chemistry through coherent emotions, beliefs, and thoughts, we create fertile soil where new realities can grow. This soil is not physical, but both biological and energetic. It is in it that manifestation finds roots and the strength to sustain itself. Neville Goddard describes this state as internally living the desired reality as a consummated fact. It is not hope, not a distant imagination, but the silent certainty that it is already inevitable. When this certainty settles in the body and mind, there is no longer an interval between asking and receiving. There is only the natural continuity between what is felt inside and what is seen outside. The invitation, then, is to stop trying to convince the universe, as if it were necessary to argue for something to happen, and to start training the body to feel the inevitable. This is not just visualizing, it is teaching each cell to recognize the new reality as familiar until it becomes the dominant pattern. The final metaphor is simple and precise. A radio does not ask to pick up the music. It does not beg for the station to respond. It simply tunes to the right frequency, and the music comes. So it is with manifestation. When the tuning is clear, the response is inevitable. The secret, in the end, was never a secret. It was, and always will be, about aligning with the frequency that already contains everything you seek.